Derik Queen hits buzzer beater to send Terps to the Sweet 16. Derik Queen of Maryland makes the game-winning basket to advance the Terrapins to the Sweet 16. The first March Madness buzzer beater has occurred, and Maryland will advance to the Sweet 16. With 6 seconds remaining, Jalen Lake of the Rams made a crucial game-winning three-pointer to give his team a 71-70 lead over the number 4 Terrapins, who were engaged in a close game against number 12 Colorado State. With 3 seconds remaining, Maryland took a timeout and brought up the ball. Derik Queen made a running jumper and drove into the lane on the last play, shooting the ball off the glass and into the paint. To finish off the incredible 72-71 win and prevent Colorado State from pulling off an upset, the buzzer was sounded. Kevin Willard, the head coach of Maryland, said that he asked his players who wanted the ball during the timeout huddle before the game-winning play. The first to reply was Queen, who said, "I want the expletive ball." Willard went on to say that getting the ball to Queen was an easy option. That was my first game winner," Queen said. "My teammates believed me when the coach came up with the play. He had faith in me. I was a little anxious, but I had to create this since I knew I deserved one." For the first time since 2016, Maryland will now advance to the Sweet 16. Number 1 Florida will be the opponent for the Terrapins. You can quickly get to the core of the story with the USA Today app. Get the e-newspaper, audio storytelling, crosswords, award-winning reportage, and more by downloading. USA Today first published this article. Derik Queen of Maryland advances to the Sweet 16 after making the game-winning shot. Lewis Hamilton disqualified from Chinese Grand Prix. After their vehicles failed post-race technical tests, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were eliminated from the main race, turning Ferrari's successful Chinese Grand Prix weekend into a disaster. 24 hours after Hamilton's heart-boosting triumph in Saturday's sprint race to restart his career, the 7-time world champion retaliating against yapping critics for doubting him, the Scuderia committed 2 fundamental mistakes that turned out to be very expensive. Why was Hamilton disqualified? First, measurements taken after the race revealed that Hamilton's car's underfloor plank, which is 0.5 millimeters below the standard and is a component of an assembly that contains titanium skid blocks to maintain a minimum ride height and prevent vehicles from being too low to the ground, had excessive wear. Then it was discovered that both Leclerc's vehicle and Alpine's Pierre Gasly's machine were underweight. Each of the 3 drivers lost their license. Even before the disqualifications, Ferrari was having a rough day. Hamilton began slightly ahead of Leclerc in 5th place, and in an opening lap battle, Leclerc tore off his front wing end plate. The Monegasque was the faster of the 2 drivers, despite having a component of his vehicle missing for the whole race. Halfway through the race, Hamilton told his crew that he would let Leclerc overtake him instead of continuing to hold him back, and he ultimately admitted defeat. Hamilton's ban would have reminded him of the time his Mercedes was booted out for the similar reason in Austin in 2023. Vasseur praises Hamilton's maturity. Ferrari said in a statement that there was no intention to gain any advantage. The Italian team claimed that since Charles was adopting a one-stop strategy today, his tire wear was very high and the vehicle was underweight. "We made a little mistake in our consumption estimate of Lewis's skid wear." After suffering a terrible Ferrari debut the weekend before in Melbourne, Hamilton seemed to have recovered in Shanghai. However, he then presented a dejected image. Regarding his choice to let Leclerc pass, Hamilton said, "We didn't really have a battle." Ferrari team president Frédéric Vasseur hailed Hamilton's decision as mature. "He just moved faster than I did. I asked the crew to let him pass as I was having trouble with the vehicle. Came up with the concept." Hamilton said, we both made setup changes and one particular change I think was the wrong one for us." When asked what had changed between the sprint race and the main Grand Prix, "Both of us had it. However, the balance was quite different for me. The window for performance is rather small. However, I believe there is a performance there. Without a doubt, I take away more good than bad from the weekend." Red Bull way up ditching Lawson. As early as the next Suzuka race weekend, Red Bull is reportedly thinking about replacing rookie Liam Lawson with Racing Bulls driver Yuki Tsunoda. As Max Verstappen's new teammate in the main Red Bull squad, Lawson had to suffer yet another challenging weekend. Lawson finished last in the sprint race and 20th in the feature race in China after falling out in Melbourne. Despite recovering to 15th place, the 23-year-old seemed unconfident. Team is considering a number of things, such as whether they believe Lawson can get better enough, what would happen to his career if he were pulled out of the second Red Bull so soon, and whether Tsunoda would lose his confidence if he switched, just like the Kiwi did. Tsunoda said, Japan, when asked whether he would consent to switching places with Lawson and Suzuka. Yes, absolutely. The Red Bull vehicle is quicker. Disqualification harsh but correct decision. The general public may sometimes find certain of the FIA's technical requirements confusing. But there's a solid reason they're there. In order to prevent teams from racing their cars so close to the ground that they would bottom out, planks, so named because they resemble a piece of wood but are really constructed of high-density resin-bonded material, were introduced below the vehicles. This was believed to have had a role in Ayrton Senna's 1994 tragic accident at Imola. Team must run a vehicle high enough to prevent the car from bottoming out because of the planks and the regulations governing their thickness before and after the race. The actual board is 300 mm in width and 10 mm in thickness. It may be worn down to 9 mm thickness during a race. The FIA measures this in certain places. Hamilton was disqualified because his board was just 8.5 mm thick.